Okay, grade 10. So today we are going to keep going with factoring. So you worked on yesterday, we did factors of ax squared plus bx plus c as long as our leading coefficient, which was a, was equal to 1. So all of these had 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. If a couple of them didn't, it meant that you should have been able to pull out the greatest common factor first. So there's a couple of us who weren't here yesterday, so I'm going to do a couple of these. They're your homework questions. I'm going to do them first because we're going to move on to questions that have a leading coefficient that's not 1. Okay, so let's start here. So I have x squared plus 13x plus 42. So if you read back in the notes, we're looking at the fancy number 42. Okay, so that number is going to be our product number. Okay. We need to find two numbers that multiply to get to 42, but also that are going to add to get to 13. So I need to think of the factors of 42. So factors of 42 are 1 and 42, 2 and 21. 42 divided by 3 is 3 and 14. Let's go 42 divided by 6, that's 6 and 7. Perfect. Okay, so I know that it's going to be 6 and 7. Okay, that means that I'm going to split up my brackets, and I know x times x is going to give me x squared, and then both of these are positive, so plus 6 plus 7. Okay, when I multiply and expand this out, I'm going to get this piece here. Okay, so these are my factors. I'm going to do one more that doesn't have a leading coefficient of 1. Okay, so this one has a leading coefficient of 2. So everything can be divided by 2. So I'm going to pull that 2 out and I'll write what I have left. So I have an a squared minus 3a. 56 divided by 2 is 28, so I have negative 28. Because I pull in this GCF out, I'm just going to let it hang out here for a bit, and I'm going to factor what's inside the brackets. Okay, so I need to figure out two numbers that multiply to get together to get to negative 28, and add to get to a negative 3. So let's think of the factors of 28. Okay, so 28, I have 1 and 28. I have 2 and 14. I have 28 divided by 4, 7. So 4 and 7. I think that might be my winner. Okay, 4 and 7. I know one of them has to be negative because my answer is negative. So I want a negative 3, so I'm going to think it's a negative 7 and a positive 4. So in my brackets here, I know a times a has to give me a squared. Okay, and I'm going to have a positive 4 and a minus 7. I can't forget about this 2. Remember that 2 hangs out with the factors, and then this is my final answer. Okay, so that's what we did yesterday. Okay, and I'm hoping that you finished this off. If you didn't, okay, you're going to have some time today to go finish it off first. But we are going to move on to factoring trinomials in the form the same that we were doing before, except for now a isn't going to be 1. We're going to have a leading coefficient there that's going to be a little bit different. Okay, so when I set this up here, now I have 3x squared plus 8x plus 4. I know that I can't divide anything out. Okay, nothing is divisible by 3, 8, and 4. So I have to set up my brackets right off the bat. I like to use a whiteboard, or you guys can use a whiteboard marker or the boogie board or however you want, because this is going to take practice and we're going to need to be doing a lot of erasing and trying again. We need to first look before, if this 3 wasn't here, if it was just x squared, I knew it was just going to be x and x. But now I know that the first term has to be 3x squared. So I need to think, well, what are the ways that I can split up 3? Okay, what are the factors of 3? Well, there's only 2. It's going to be 1 times 3. So I'm going to put 3x here times a 1x here. 3x times x I know is going to give me a 3x squared. Perfect. Okay. Before, I was having to deal with what are my factors of 4 and the same two numbers that are going to add to get to 8. But now because I have this 3 here, when I'm multiplying out, it has to multiply by 3, at least one of the numbers. Okay, so it's not going to be as nice. However, I do know that whatever two numbers are going to go here, when they multiply by each other, they have to equal that 4. Okay, so I need to think still of the factors of 4 that can be in these two numbers. Okay, so I know it's either 1 and 4 or 2 and 2. Okay, so I know that these are positive, so it's either going to be both negatives or both positive. So I can kind of go either way. When I'm looking at this, now this is kind of where the piece I use my eraser or my whiteboard or anything like this for. I know that when I expand out and when I multiply, I'm going to put that arrow back there. I know when I expand out and I multiply, I know that whatever this number is here times x, and whatever this number is here, whatever those answers are, they have to then add together to get to a positive 8. Whatever those two terms are, they're going to be combined together to get to a positive 8. Okay, so I either have to put, let's try 1 and 4. So I'm going to put a 1 here, and I'm going to put a 4 here. So I know that 1 times x, well, this is 1x. 3 times 4, well, that's 12x. Does 1x plus 12x equal 8x? Nope. So it can't be those ones. So I'm going to erase those pieces. I can try it the other way. I can put a 4 here because now placement's going to matter. Before it didn't. I'm going to put a 4 here and I'm going to put a 1 here. So I have 4 times x, so that's 4x. 3 times x, that's 3x, is 3x plus 4x equal 8x? Nope. So it's not going to be those numbers. So I know that it can't be the 1 and 4. So now I know it has to be 2 and 2. Okay, and again, the numbers won't really matter if this one, because they're the same one. So I'm going to put a 2x here, or just 2, sorry, 2 here, 2 here. I'm going to make them both positive. Now let's test it out. Okay, so 2x is going to get here, and 3 times 2x, that gives me a 6x. I know that 2x plus 6x is going to equal 8x. So these are my factors. So my final answer here is going to be 3x plus 2 times x plus 2. Perfect. Okay, let's do another one. So I have 2x squared plus 11x plus 15. So I'm going to set up my brackets. So I have a bracket, 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 bracket. Okay, I know that there has to be at least x and x, but I know there's going to be a 2 in one of them because I think of the numbers that I can split up 2. Okay, well, it's 1 and 2, and that's it. So this one's going to have a 2x, and this one's going to, the second bracket's going to have a 1x squared. So 2x times x gives me a 2x squared. I'm good. Okay, I know that whatever this term is here and this term is here, when they're multiplied to get together, they have to give me 15. Okay, so I'm going to think of the factors of 15. So I have 1 and 15, and I have 3 and 5. Okay, so that's one piece. So those are the numbers that could potentially go at those two places. I know that whatever this number times x and 2x times whatever this number is has to add together to get to 11x. So let's think. So if I go 2 times, let's say 15, well, that gives me 30. Okay, so I think that's really big and I can't get to 11 that way. Okay, so I'm not going to do 2 times 30. If I go do some things here. Okay, if I go 2 times 1, that gives me 2, and then plus the 15, well, I know that's not going to work. So I don't think it's going to be 1 and 15. That doesn't work for my numbers here. So now I'm going to think 3 and 5. Okay, so let's go 2 times, let's go 3. Because 2 times 3 gives me 6x. And then 5 times x gives me 5x. I know 5x plus 6x adds to 11x. So I know that this is my answer. So plus, I know that I'm done. So my answer here is 2x plus 5 times x plus 3. Okay, so there's your investigation method. So you kind of have to investigate, well, what has to equal, why, where am I going with it? Eventually you won't have to always show your arrows. Okay, that's just a way that we can kind of work through it. Okay, so far the two numbers 2 and 3, those were prime numbers. They were only multiplied by themselves in 1. Now we're looking at our next one. So it's 6x squared plus a minus 2. So again, I got to set up my brackets. Bracket, 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 bracket. So I know that there's going to be an A and an A, but these A's potentially could have a coefficient in front of them. Okay. So I need to think, okay, well, what two numbers can kind of split up my 6 here? So I know that I could either be 1 and 6 or 2 and 3. Okay, let's try our 1 and 6. If I have this as a 6a, that's going to be 1a. I know that whatever number is here, multiplied by itself, okay, multiplied by the second piece has to equal -2. So the factors of -2 are 1 and 2. Okay. So that means that there only potentially could be 2 numbers that are going here. It's either this one is a 2 or it's a 1, or this one's a 2 and a 1, and one of them has to be negative. When I'm breaking that down, I also have to think of my numbers here. 6a times 1 is going to be 6a. 2 times a is going to be 2a. Does 2a and 6a, even with one of those being negative or positive, equal to a +1? Nope, that doesn't work. Okay, so I'm going to erase these ones. My 2 and 1 can't go there, and my 6 and my 1 isn't going to work either. So I'm going to erase 1 and 6, and I'm going to try 2 and 3. So 2 and 3. Okay, so again, I know it has to be 1 and 2. It just depends on which place it's going to go. Okay, so I'm going to think 2 times, let's say 1, and then 2 times 1, and then 2 times 3a. So this gives me 6a, and this gives me 2a. Again, I'm here 6a, 2a, that doesn't get me to a +2. So let me try the other way. I'm going to go a 1 here and a 2 here. So let's go 2a times 2 gives me 4a, and 1 times a gives me 3a. Well, I need to try to get to a +1, and I know one of these numbers has to be negative. So if I have 4a and 3a to get to a +1, my 3a needs to be negative, meaning this -1 has to go here. So I have 2a minus 1 and 3a plus 2. Okay, so 2a minus 1 and 3a plus 2. If I expand this out, it should give me my numbers here.